from Play Simple Chords. In this tutorial, I'm going to cover gospel chords and progressions in the key of G flat. I will be applying them to the hymn, "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus." This is the fourth in a series of 12, where I will eventually cover all 12 keys and apply gospel chords to a different hymn in each key. In this tutorial, I will be applying chromatic bass lines to several sections in the song, and you'll see how you can use them to add additional interest to the harmony of the song. Let's now take a look at the scale and the chords for the key of G flat major. That's the key that we're going to be using the song "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus" to demonstrate the use of gospel chords. So in the key of G flat, of course, G flat is 1, A flat's 2, B flat's 3, C flat is 4, D flat is 5, E flat 6, F 7, and then we're back at G flat. We know that there are chords that can be built on each scale tone. So the first scale tone is a major chord, so we'll have G flat major 7. The second scale tone is a minor, and we'll have A flat minor 7. The third is a minor, and so we'll have B flat minor 7. The fourth is a major 7, so we'll have C flat major 7, and you know that this is also can be called B because of the spelling that's used. You can only have one note B in the scale. So this is C flat, which is your 4, and you have a major C flat major 7. Then you have a D flat dominant 7, or D flat major 7. Then you can have a E flat minor on the 6. So your 6th tone is a minor 7. And then minor 7 flat 5 on your 7th tone, and then G flat major. Now if you arrange these chord tones in circle of fourths order, you'll get a different sound altogether. Same chords, but because of the circle of fourths order, you'll get a different sound from the chords. Your 1, 4, 7, 3, and then 6, 2, 5, 1. And this circle is going to be the basis for identifying chords that can be added to the chord progression for the song "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus." So let's look at the major scale and the concept of borrowed chords using G flat major. When we look at the chord progression, the foundational chord progression that has the harmonic minor chords or scales used to borrow chords from, we see that we start off with the G flat major 7, and then we go to an F minor 7 flat 5, to a B flat 7 sharp 9 sharp 5, to an E flat minor 7, and then we'll go to a D flat minor 7, to a G flat 9, and then to a B flat, or excuse me, a C flat, which is B, and then to a B flat minor, to an E flat 7 flat 9, to an A flat minor, B flat minor, B major, and then back to a C flat over E flat, D flat over F, and then back to G flat major. And in that progression, the first first scale that we will borrow chords from will be the harmonic minor. So we'll be looking at the minor 7 flat 5 to the B flat 7 sharp 9 to the E flat minor. And if you look at the scale as it relates to G flat major, you'll see that what's borrowed is the flat 7 sharp 9 sharp 5 chord, because in the parent scale G flat, B flat is a minor chord. So that's basically the concept behind borrowing as it applies to the G flat major scale. The concept is the same for all 12 keys, but in this series that I'm going through right now, I'm going to show it in all 12 of the keys. So you won't have to figure it out. You can just look at the video for whichever key you're interested in, and then you'll see this concept applied to a song in that key. The next one we would run into would be the Ionian major scale that we'd borrow chords from. And if you again look at the G flat major scale compared to the Ionian major scale, you'll see that the changed chord, or the one that we're borrowing, is the G flat 9, because of course the parent key is a 1. So we're borrowing a dominant, we're changing the parent scale 1 chord to a dominant chord, which means it would have to come out of another scale. It would have to be part of a different scale. And the third one would be the harmonic minor for A flat minor 7. And again, we're borrowing the E flat 7 flat 9 from the harmonic minor scale. And you'll see a common theme in these borrowed chords for this concept, and that is it's the dominant chord that's creating the 5-1 relationship in each one of these scales that requires you to borrow outside of the key of G flat major. And when you do that, it opens up the use of these scales, so you know where they're coming from. You're not arbitrarily deciding that you're going to change the scale from a major to a minor, or for a dominant to a minor. You're actually looking at what scale and what key that actually belongs to, and it will help you as you begin to reharmonize songs in the future. And then last but not least is the 2-5-1 that's actually part of the home key, and that would be, of course, the A flat minor 7 to the D flat 7 to the G flat major 7. You'll use those in some form or fashion in your reharmonization of gospel hymns. Let's now look at the scales and chords that we're going to apply to the song, "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus." This gospel chords table is common to all 12 keys. The only difference that is the bass notes for each one of the chords changes. So if you stick with this series, you'll be able to play in all 12 keys, because I'm going to provide this gospel chords table for all 12 keys and demonstrate it using a song, a different hymn for each one of the keys. And in this key, we're using "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus." It's a typical hymn that starts off with a 1 chord that goes to a 4 chord and then goes back to the 1 chord. And in this song, the first place we'll add a chord progression, but will be the one going to the B. So it would sound like this. Now what we're playing is a 2-5-1 going to B or C flat. And the chord would progression would normally sound, or the way you've normally heard it would be like this. But what I did was I changed it to use that tritone substitute that we were talking about before. So instead of going from the D flat to the G flat, I went D flat, C to the B. Creates a chromatic bass line. And you know the C is the tritone substitute for G flat. So we can play and that allows us to add a little more harmony. Rather than just going from the 1 to the 4 to the 5, we added a 2-5-1, this time going to the 4. The second place that we'll add a chord progression is where we go just to take him at his word, because the song repeats. It's just so sweet to trust in Jesus, and then just to him at his word, and then I'm going to do a progression there. And that's a flat 5, flat 6, 5, 5 progression. And it's the second one that's on the table in front of you. The first one is the way we would get to this A flat chord. A flat is not a dominant chord in the key of G flat major. A flat is a minor chord. So we'd have to use a scale to borrow the A flat from, and in this particular case, A flat is the 5 chord in the key of D flat major, and that's where we're actually heading in this chord progression. So we use the dominant chord, A flat, as a dominant chord, and then we use the flat 7, which is E, going to the flat 6, which is D, and then we go to a D flat 9, and then we add the additional tone to make it a 7 flat 9. So that first part of the song would sound like this. And then you would repeat it, and the words would be just to rest upon his promise. And then we would play the chord progression that ends that part of the song, that first verse, and it's also the same progression that ends the chorus. So it would go. And that's a pretty common progression. The voicings for the chords may be a little different, but it's just a 1, 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 1. Now the 4, I'm calling it a 4 because I'm calling the chord, naming the chord after it being a B flat. But you can play this chord also with an E flat in the bass, and you know E flat is the 6th tone of the scale, so you can kind of look at this like a 1, 1, 3, 6, 2, 5, 7, 1. Now, the phrases that I just presented are repeated because there's several verses of the song. But the chord progressions that I just showed you can be used on all of those verses. Now, when you get down to the chorus, there are a few things that change. When we go, you can play. So you could dress up those basic chords and still stay basic with the triads as a hymn. But what I'm going to show you is how you can add some additional flavor to this particular passage. So I'm going to play it this way. So that passage has some new chord progressions in it, but it also repeats the chord progressions from the first part. So I'm going to go over the new parts right now. So what I played was a 1 to a 7. Now you can play that. You have an option here. You can play or you can play it as a 7 sharp 9 sharp 5. Now, what's nice about either of those voicings is they all propel you towards that A flat chord. Did this progression already. So what we're playing is a, let's see, G flat. We're playing an F minor 7 flat 5, which is the 7, and then we're playing an E flat minor 11, and then we're playing a G dominant 7 with a D in the bass. So we know we have to borrow that from a different scale because G is a major chord in G flat is a major chord in the scale. And then we play that A flat minor, which is diatonic to the G flat scale. And then we play it through one more time. And then this time we play the A flat dominant 7 instead of the G flat dominant 7. I mean the A flat minor. We play the A flat dominant 7, and then we play the E major 7, D7 flat 9 flat 5, D flat 9, and then we repeat the chords for the first verse. And those are the chords to the song "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus" that I added using borrowed chords and altered chords to harmonize the melody notes in this gospel hymn. Thank you for watching my tutorials. Simple chords are the building blocks for making advanced chords. And I hope you find that these tutorials are helpful to you on your musical journey. Please like, subscribe, and share these tutorials with others who have a desire to learn how to play music on the piano. I look forward to sharing other tutorials